wow. 74 bro. Actually it was like 76, 77 நாங்கள் பாருங்க ப்ரோ. நல்லா போயிட்டுருக்கோம். நடுவில் ஒரு ஸ்பீட் அடித்தேன் பாருங்க. அப்படியே ஃபஸ்ட்டு அடிச்சு பாருங்க. 88 டப்புன்னு ஒரு 88 அடிப்பேன். 77, 78. மிஸ்டேக் ஆனால் லைட்டாக குறைஞ்சிடும் ப்ரோ. மிஸ்டேக் எரர் எப்போல்லாம் ஆகுதோ டப்புன்னு ஒன்று குறையும். அதான் 75 இருப்போ ஒரு இது குறையுது. 8 and 4 அடிச்சுட்டு போயிட்டே இருக்கேன். That's it bro, that's it. ஸோ இன்றைக்கான இது பண்ணிட்டேன்னா 1 பண்ணிட்டேன். 6 ஒரு டெஸ்ட்டு தான் எடுத்துருக்கிறேன். இன்னும் ஒரு 3 டெஸ்ட் எடுக்கணும். 3, 2, 1. ஓகே. ஓ நோ ஃபஸ்ட் லைனில் எப்போவுமே தப்பு பண்ண ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ். ஃபஸ்ட் லைனில் தப்பு பண்ணால் ஸ்டார்ட் வந்து ஒரு ஹெட் ஸ்டார்ட் ஆகும். ஹெட் ஸ்டார்ட் ஸோ தட் nice. Okay. 178 BPM. Okay, now starts patna. So I came across like 60s la irundhen, ipo 70s vandren. 70s la irundhu 80s ponum, 80s full ah ponum. 80s ponna poilanda 100 BPM கிட்டத்தட்ட அடிச்சிட்டேன்னு வச்சுக்கேன். தடுக்கவே முடியாது. 100 BPM அடிச்சோம்னா நம்ம தான் புலின்னு வச்சுக்கலாம். குட்டி புலி. 78 தான் எனக்கு வருது. இது வந்து ஒரு 100 வரும். which is way not tougher, but I can do it. I will. Alright, so that was the thing I want to discuss about. And so now what I'm going to do is that enna pannalam, how I made my first score. Bruh. Computer science need to hear this. One productive day at a time. Join live. Wait, what? என்ன மாதிரியாவா? என்ன ப்ரோ பண்ணுறீங்க? ஓகே, ஏதோ பண்ணுறீங்க. அது என்னன்னு தெரில. ஆல்ரைட். ஓ மை ஃப்ரீக்கிங் காட். இவ்வளோ டீட்டெயில் கொடுத்துக்கிட்டு என்ன பண்ணிகிட்ருக்கீங்க? நைஸ். Do this. And yes, stop. Alright. Lose all games. Picture this. Alright. numpy. No. Patterns பார்க்கணும்னால DSC focus.
If you're still typing your coding prompts, you're
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing extremely well. So this is another lecture of the Strivers A to Z DSA course. And in the previous lectures, we have completed step 1.1. So we'll be starting off with step 1.2. And this is nothing but do all these patterns. So you can see that this page contains all the patterns that you have to do before starting off data structures and algorithms. Now, when I talk about patterns, why are they important in order to start off with DSA? Whenever I talk about DSA, whatever topic, be it dynamic programming, graphs, trees, arrays, binary search, one thing is common in them, that is the loops. If you do not understand loops in depth, if you cannot improvise with loops, then there will be a problem in order to do, like there will be a problem when you do DSA. That is why patterns are so important, because if you want to master something like loops, you want to understand how loops work, if you know how to play around it, then you can get very, very good at data structures and algorithms. And for loops, you have to do patterns. This is the reason we will be solving a bunch of patterns. Are they asked in interviews? The answer to that is no. I have never seen an interviewer ask a pattern-based question until unless it is a TCS interview or something like a service-based company. So patterns are not asked in interviews of the top-tier companies, but patterns do play a significant role when you are starting off with data structures and algorithms. So let's look at the first pattern. The first pattern is something like this. So if I draw that in our iPad, it is something like is a TCS interview or something like a service-based company. So patterns are not asked in interviews of the top-tier companies, but patterns do play a significant role when you are starting off with data structures and algorithms. So let's look at the first pattern. The first pattern is something like this. So if I draw that in our iPad, it is something like this. Now, before moving on to pattern, I'm going to teach you 4 steps. I'm going to teach you 4 steps that will help you to print any pattern in the world. Yes. And the first point is, so generally all the patterns that you will be printing will have nested loops. Again, very important to remember, will have nested loops. And most of the pattern will have 2 loops. That is the outer loop and that is the inner loop. Okay, now the outer loop is specifically for the lines. The outer loop is specifically for the lines, and the inner loop is specifically for the columns. So I can say these are the rows and these are the columns. So the 4 rules are based on it. So the first rule states, for the outer loop, yes, for the outer loop, count the number of lines, count the rows, count the number of lines, whatever you can write, count the number of lines, and this will determine what your outer loop is going to be. The point number 2, what did I say? Pattern means nested loops. Loop. Yes. For the outer loop, count the number of lines, count the rows, count the number of lines, whatever you can write, count the number of lines, and this will determine what your outer loop is going to be. The point number 2, what did I say? Pattern means nested loops. Nested means outer and inner. So for the inner loop, what you have to do is, you have to focus on the columns. Focus on the columns and connect them somehow to the rows. That's the rule number 2. You have to focus on the columns and connect them somehow to the rows. I'll understand this afterwards. Now, whatever you're printing, print them inside the inner loop. Whatever you're printing, print the, let's say over here it's a star. The other places can be 1, 2, can be A, B, C, D. Whatever you're printing, print them inside the inner for loop. I'll show you an example, everything will get clarified. The 4th one is observe symmetry in case of some patterns. Observe symmetry. So this is an optional one. This step is an optional step. Why? Because this step will be only applicable to certain patterns, not to all the patterns. So this is an optional step, but the first 3 steps are mandatory. The 4th step is an optional one. We will solve patterns which will be requiring observing symmetry. So let's come to the first pattern. I'll be explaining this in depth, and then the next patterns we will be moving faster. If we look at this pattern, let's have the first rule. For the outer loop, count the number of lines. So if you see, it is actually doing some task for 4 times, right? It is exactly doing the task for 4 times. So the outer loop will be running for 4 times, or you can say it will be like I equal to 0, I lesser than 4, and I plus plus. Can I say this is what the outer loop will be? So this is going to be your outer loop. Pretty simple. And straight outer loop to 0. So the times, right? It is exactly doing the task for 4 times. So the outer loop will be running for 4 times, or you can say it will be like I equal to 0, I lesser than 4, and I plus plus.
பேட்டர்னாக இருக்குது 4 ஸ்பேஸ் 4 ஸ்பேஸ் 4 ஸ்பேஸ் 4. இது 4 வாட்டி பிரிண்ட் ஆகுது. அப்புறம் எண்டல் ஆகுது. ஓகே, இது 4 வாட்டி தான் இப்படி ரைட்டில் போகல பாரு. ரைட்டில் போகிறதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணுவேன்? ரைட்டில் போகிறதுக்கு சொல்கிறதுக்கு தான் எண்டல் கொடுக்குறான்ல கருமோ இந்த எண்டல் புரியுதா பார்த்தா மாட்டீங்கன்னா boom. I don't seem to understand. You don't seem to understand.
Can I say this is what the outer loop will be? So this is going to be your outer loop. Now done the step 1, which is printing for the outer loop. Okay, so we are moving for the outer loops. Now the next step comes for the inner loop. Focus on the columns. For the inner loop, focus on the columns and connect them somehow to the rows. Let's see. We have 4 rows. And what is happening at every line? At every line, what is happening? We are printing 4 stars. At every line, what is happening? We are printing 4 stars. At every line, what is happening? We are printing 4 stars. So can I say, if I try to write it, can I say, for the 0th row, I'm printing 4 stars. For the first row, I'm printing 4 stars. For the second row, I'm printing 4 stars. From the third row, I'm printing 4 star. Like if I take 0-based indexing. Can I say I'm printing 4, 4, 4, 4? Can I connect it somehow to the rows? Yes. The total number of rows were 4. And at every line, we are printing those many stars. So can I say the inner loop will be very straightforward and it will be running for J. Do not take a dive. Okay, because I is the outer loop. J equal to 0. J lesser than 4. J plus plus. Can I say this? This will be your inner loop. So can I say whenever I is 0, J will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Whenever I is 1, J will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Can I say whenever I is 2, J will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Whenever I is 3, J will be 0, 1, 2, 3. It will be. So step number 2 is also completed because we have connected at every line or whatever, at every column, whatever is happening to the number of rows. Somehow I've connected them. Now since I've connected them, what's my next step? Print whatever you're printing inside the inner for loop. You have determined what has to be done. Now what are you stars inside the inner for loop? But make sure, since everyone is an individual line, at every, like once you have done everything for the first line, you have to actually go to the new line. Once you've done everything for the next line, you have to go to the new line. So what you'll do is you'll just give away a print new line over here. If you're using Java, it will be system.out.println. If you're using C++, it will be cout. What this will do is, now let's do a typical dry run. Let's see what happens. For the first time, I is 0. Whenever I is 0, what happens? J is 0. So J is 0. Start. City code. Putting this up, just a case. For loops in C++ and for loops in Java are same. So it doesn't matter which language I'm coding in. You can code it in Java as well. I'll be leaving the notes link in the description, which will also have the Java code. If you want the Java code or the Python code, you can just open it up and you can keep it on the side just to check out how everything works. Okay. So we have int main in C++ and Java. It will be public static void main. So imagine I just write a function which is going to do that task for me, which is void print pattern 1. Really print pattern 1. And I say the pattern was something like 0, 4, I++, and then I go like int j equal to 0, j less than 4, j++, and then I go like cout, and this goes like star, and this is where cout endl happens. And in order to execute this pattern, I have to call it from here, correct? Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run this task. Let's see on running what happens. So when I run this, you will see this is getting printed. But usually you do not do it like 4 or 5. What they do is they give you an input. So probably imagine I give you an input 5. So what happens is you take n as the input, and this input is passed over here. You remember function? So you give n over here, and if you write n over here, now what will happen is, based on how many rows you want, this pattern will get printed. So now again I'll go and run this task. So you need 5 lines, it gets printed. You need 7 lines, it will get printed. So depending on however lines you want, you can just give it as an input, and this function will make sure this particular pattern is printed. Now we need to learn about the online compilers. So when you go for interviews or whenever you're preparing for placements, you will not be coding int main. This is something you will not be coding up. Okay, in compilers or in coding rounds, what you just need to do is you just need to write this function. Now all of these things will be hidden. So let's go to an online compiler. So this is Code Studio by Coding Ninjas, which I'll be using for this particular video. Now this is similar to all the other compilers, and you have to use online compilers when you're preparing for coding interviews. You just can't code in your local compilers. So get used to this as of now. So what I'll do is I'll just take this particular piece of code and I'll try to copy this over here and see if it is running fine. And I'll try to run it. And the moment I run it, I see actually wrong. And this is where you can actually check out where it is running. So they're saying they are giving 2, 3, 5. Now you are saying, but Striver, we just had one value. Now what they are doing is they're probably doing it something like this. I'll explain. 2. It's saying the program runs for 2 times. Then they're giving something like 3 and 5, right? 3 and 5. So what they are saying is basically, hey, listen, this time we'll take test cases. Our pattern function should run these many times. And what they do is they go ahead and probably do it something like this. T and I++. And inside this, they take this particular n and they call the function. So basically 2 times you will have to print patterns. First time for 3 rows, the next time for 5 rows. So if you run it in the local compiler, see what happens. Let's run that in the local compiler. So the moment, sorry, my bad. So the moment I run that in the local compiler, you will see what happens. First, this got printed, next this. So this is the meaning of test cases. Test cases means your program internally is run for multiple cases. They will never run it for one test case. In the real life or in the coding world, there will be thousands of test cases. Any program that you run will be run on, any program that you write will be run on thousands of test cases. Like over here, your program is run on 2 test cases. And this is how the backend looks. In the backend, they will write something int main. They will take the test cases and they will call your functions for every other test case. And your function has to perform the task for the first time 3 rows, for the next time 5 rows. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I was right. Why was it wrong? So if you see, they're clearly showing that there has to be a space. Because if you look at it, they want space. What you can just give is there's a space. And once you've given the space, you can go ahead and run it again. The moment you give a space and run it again, you see that it is running fine. Then you can go ahead and submit this code and you will see that this is giving you a correct answer. So from now onwards, you should always practice on online coding platforms, because when you go for interviews, this is where you will have to give your online exams or whatever it is. So please start practice. So I hope you've understood the test cases stuff and how the backend looks in an online compiler. What you have to write, you don't have to write the entire code, you just have to write the function snippet, because the other things they will be taken care of. Let's look at the second pattern and let's try to again implement this same number of steps. So the second pattern,
நான் சொன்ன மாதிரியே 1 2 3 4 5 லைன்ஸு, அப்புறம் 1 2 3 4 5 லைன்ஸு. ஆனால் இங்கே வந்து எப்படி இருக்கணும்னா 0 வந்து 5 4 number of focus on the columns.
pattern
So 1 2 3 4 5. So இங்கே 0லேருந்து I வரைக்கும் தான் வச்சுருக்கோம்.
states. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. The first loop is going to be dead straightforward. So let's do one thing. Let's quickly copy paste this stuff, and yeah, let's do it pattern number 2. And what I'll do is I'll do it print pattern number 2. I'll probably just, yeah. So what is the first loop? First loop is saying again n rows. That is very obvious because we are seeing that it is for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. There's something. Let's check for the 1 second line. So can I 3 stars? For the third row I'm printing 4 stars. For the fourth row I'm printing 5 stars. So can I say I have to run it for once for the first line, run it for twice in the second line, run it for thrice in the second line. So can I say if it is line 0, it runs for, or if it is line 1, it runs for once, twice, thrice, 4, 5 times. Very simple, isn't it? So can I say if I write the inner loop as int j equal to 0 and j lesser than equal to I, and then inside this if I give something like cout of star space and over here I end it, will this run? This has to run, isn't it? This has to run. So I've given the test cases, everything. Will it run? Let's give it a try and see if it is running fine. Let's run this task. So if you see over here, this did not run because why?
Print 2.
Because we are calling print 1. So we will call print 2, my bad. Let's call print 2 and let's see if it runs. It did. It's pretty simple, isn't it? When I is 0, it runs from 0 to 0. When I is 1, it runs from 0 to 1. When I is 2, it runs from 0 to 2. So we just tried, yes, the step number 2. We just looked at the step number 2 and it was pretty simple. The step number 2 clearly stated connected somehow to the rows. And we were seeing 0 row, 1 row. It was pretty simple. Just run it for 0, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And that was very evident to be connected to the outer I loop. And the third step was print them inside the for loop. So the 3 steps were done and I was easily able to print this particular pattern. Again, let's for the online compiler, let's take this. For the online compiler, let's take this and try to take it over here and try to run it and see if it is running fine. It is, and let's submit this. So if I submit this, this is running fine. Yes, it is. So that was the pattern number 2. Now let's go to the next pattern. That's the pattern number 3. It's something like 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Again, step number 1 for the outer loop.
1, 1, 2, 3. Wow, sorry. You don't seem to understand.
Loop, count the number of lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has 5 lines. So the outer loop is going to be very, very straightforward. So let's again take this and copy this for the pattern number 3. So this is going to be pattern number 3 and the outer loop is going to be pretty straightforward. 0 to n. And yeah, let's take this off. And this is going to be 3. So the outer loop is pretty simple. But now let's try to connect the inner loop, like the columns, to somehow the rows. Now I know this is row number 0. For the order of simplicity, let's take this as row number 1. For the row number 1, I'm actually printing from just 1. For the row number 2, I'm printing 1, 2. For the row number 3, I'm printing 1, 2, 3. For the row number 4, I'm printing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Bro, I am unable to do this, bro. ஏன்னா எனக்கு வந்து செம்ம தூக்கம் வருது இப்போ நான் போய் தூங்கிட்டு